everyone! Today I am bringing you guys a video that I wasn't really planning on filming until I saw this video from a book olive a few days ago. She did this video, books that have been on my TBR the longest, and I was like, I should do that because I honestly don't know what books I have on my TBR the longest in terms of, in Goodreads. So I decided to do it today. So I will be linking her video down below and up here on the cards so you guys can check it out. I'm definitely just copying this from her. Yeah. So I have been on Goodreads since 2012. I've been reading way longer than that, obviously, but that was around the time that I made my account and actually been active in it, sort of. So I opened my books in Goodreads, and I have here the top 10 books that I have on my list. A lot of these are actually series because I do love reading series. So I didn't count in the 10 each individual book. So yeah, we are going to be talking about a lot more than 10 here. So let's get started. So the first book that I have on my list is actually, let me see. I added this on in the year 2013. We're gonna start with my latest book that I have. These are the top 10 and I'm starting with the latest book that I added. And this one that I added in the year 2014, January 2014. And that is Winds of Winter by George R.R. Martin. This is the sixth book in the Song of Ice and Fire series, more popularly known through the Game of Thrones, the HBO Game of Thrones TV series. I read this whole series so far, what he had out, I think 2014-15. So that was when I added this on my list. And we still don't have a date that this is gonna come out. It's still not out, The Winds of Winter. I don't know when this is gonna come out. They said it might be this year or next year. I don't know. George R.R. Martin writes for a while and he hasn't released any book yet in the last, I don't know, when was his last release? His last release was 2011. That was 8 years ago. That's 8 years ago. And he hasn't released anything. I mean, I don't know. He has released Fire and Blood this last year, but nothing else. The first book in the Song of Ice and Fire series of Game of Thrones was released in 1996. That was the year I was born. I'm 23 now, and we still don't have book 6 of the series. And I know he's going to be planning on releasing a book 7. So yeah, I don't know, but this is definitely something that I will be reading once it comes out, whenever it comes out. I'm probably going to be in my 40s when this comes out. I don't know, but I will be reading this. I binge read pretty much the whole, the first 4 books that he has out so far in a month. I read all of the books in a month, less than a month, I think. I was just binge reading the whole series. So yeah, that's the first book, The Winds of Winter by George R.R. Martin. The next one is 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. This is a very popular book in BookTube, and I know that this is set in Afghanistan, and it's detailing the Soviet invasion, the reign of the Taliban to post-Taliban rebuilding. And I know this is it's historical fiction, and I know it's very emotional and very hard-hitting. And I think that's why I haven't had the courage to read this, because I'm very scared, because I get really emotional when it comes to books, which is expected. But yeah, I'm just afraid to get into this at a wrong point in my life or a wrong moment in my life, because I know this is going to be dealing with very heavy topics. So I feel like I need to be in a really good mindset to get into this book and be okay as much as I could be after reading it. So this is definitely something that I will be reading. So 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. Alright, the next book is The Rithmatist by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in the Rithmatist series. This came out in 2013, and this is the only book he has on this series so far. This is his young adult series. Brandon Sanderson is known for writing the Mistborn series, which is a high fantasy adult series, and this is his first young adult, I believe. And he has only released this one from the series so far. It's been 6 years. He hasn't released anything yet about the second book. We're following, I guess, a young man. So we're just a young man. Like maybe like I think he's a teenager. His name's Joel. He is an aspiring Rithmatist. Rithmatists in this world are those that can breathe life into two-dimensional chalk drawings called chalklings. And he is the son of a lonely chalk maker, and he can only watch as Rithmatist students learn the magical art that he would do anything to practice. But then students start disappearing, leaving trails of blood, and he gets into solving the mystery, I guess. Again, I haven't read this book. If you guys didn't know, I like to binge read series. So I prefer when a series is pretty much already done before I start reading the first book, because I do like to keep going, because I tend to forget things when I don't read the series one after the other, like the books in the series one after the other. So I haven't read this one because so far we haven't heard anything about the second book in the Rithmatist series. So I'm still definitely gonna be reading this book, but I need the second book to be like out, or like be coming out soon. So the next book is Infinity, the first book in the Chronicles of Nick series by Sherilyn Kenyon. This is a young adult fantasy paranormal urban fantasy. We're following the character Nick, who discovers this alternate world / universe in the world that he lives in, where there are dark hunters who kill immortal vampires, and there are werewolves. There are those who hunt and kill vampires. And then his classmates start becoming zombies, and it's his adventure from there. And I think there are quite a few books in this series. This sounds very interesting, and the ratings for all of the books are very high. So it is also one of those books I do want to read sometime in the future. The series is already complete. There are 8 books in the series. It sounds like it's going to be like a really great adventure fantasy kind of book, young adult. And I haven't really read a lot of books where we follow like male characters in fantasy, so I'm definitely looking forward to reading this one and getting into it. Again, I need time though, so this is still gonna be staying in my TBR. The next one is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I know that a lot of people love this book. I don't really know what this is about. I know this is fantasy, but that's it. That's it. I think there's like wizards and witches and magic, and I think that's like the main thing here. We're following the tale of the magically gifted young man who grows to be the most notorious wizard his world has ever seen. So I guess we're following his story. So again, I haven't gotten into this book yet. This is one of those books that I'm also afraid to get into, because I know this is quite huge, and there's a few more books in this series that are already out, but there's one more book that needs to be out, I think, and it hasn't been released. And I think all of the books are within the 500, 600, 700 page mark. So this is gonna be like a really long epic fantasy, and I really like to gear myself into it. But again, I like to binge read series, especially like really dense series like this, where there's a lot of things happening in one book. So I really prefer to binge read it. So I'm definitely will be still reading this book. It's just that I need the last book to be out again. The next one is Furies of Calderon, the first book in the Codex Alira series by Jim Butcher. I know that all of the books in this series are out already. This is an epic fantasy. Again, fantasy is my favorite genre. One of those books that I'm also pretty scared to get into. I know the books are really thick, and I know a lot of people love this series. It's quite intimidating. A lot of things is because they are very intimidating books. Either they're not yet done, or they're not yet done and they're intimidating, or they're intimidating, just intimidating. So we'll try to read this sometime in my life. The next one is Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson. This is like the spin-off to Mistborn. This series is called Mistborn: The Alloy Era. This is set 300 years after the events of Mistborn trilogy. I have read Mistborn, I think around the year that I put this into my to-read list, which is around 2014. It's been a while. I don't have my personal copies. They're still in the Philippines. But if ever I will, once I, am able to get into this series, I will be rereading Mistborn first, because I definitely have forgotten a lot of the things that happened there. Like, I still remember it, but like, I feel like I need to read it first to like really get into the mood to continue reading the rest of the books in this spin-off series. And yeah, another intimidating TBR for me because it involves a lot of books and they're pretty dense epic fantasies. The next one is The Demon King by Cinda Williams Chima, the first book in the Seven Realms series, another spin-off series, I believe, from Cinda Williams Chima. The rest of her books, the first series in this like whole big world that she is writing about, the Air Chronicles. I haven't read that one. That is also in my to read, and I do want to read that one first before I go into the Seven Realms because it is a spin-off series. And then Her Shattered Realms, which is a spin-off of the spin-off, I believe. That's what I remember. But another one that is it's fantasy. It's young adult, but I know that it's going to be very dense, and a lot of people love it too. The ratings are very high. It has a really large following. I'm intimidated by it, but I'm definitely looking forward to reading it. Next is Night of Cake and Puppets by Laini Taylor. This is a novella in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series. I have finished Daughter of Smoke and Bone this year, and I can't believe I forgot to read Night of Cakes and Puppets. I will be reading this. We are following here the story of Susanna, which is Karu's best friend, the main character, Karu, in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone. And I really love her character. A lot of people love her character. That's why Laini Taylor wrote her own like novella, and we're following her and her boyfriend Mick. And I know a lot of people really love this novella too. And I definitely will be reading that soon. I promise. So, yeah, Night of Cake and Puppets by by Laini Taylor. Okay, and the last one is Tiger's Curse by Colleen Hook. For some reason, this series I think of as a retelling of Peter Pan. Or am I remembering a different series that looks very similar to that? But anyway, here we're following Kelsey Hayes, who unexpectedly tries to break a curse in a 300-year-old Indian curse out of nowhere. I think that's like the premise, with a white tiger named Run. The cover has like a white tiger on it, and the title is Tiger's Curse. So this is a paranormal young adult-ish fantasy series. All of the books are out. They have very high ratings. It's just this one I sort of already forgot that is on my TBR because that was from 6 years ago. So yeah. That is all of the books that I have on my TBR list, the longest books that I've had. All of these books are either intimidating, long, not yet complete, or I've forgotten about. And they're all pretty much fantasy. I think they're all fantasy. Yeah, they're all fantasy. And hopefully in the next months or so, I will be actually getting into these books. Hopefully. Like I know I will be reading Night of Cakes and Puppets soon. I think the next would be Tiger's Curse because it's the least it's the least intimidating, and maybe the Chronicles of Nick or the Chronicles of Nick or the Furies of Calderon. No, Furies of Calderon's very long. But I do want to buy the Seven Realms series by Cinda Williams Chima this month, so hopefully I'll get to buy that and start reading that series soon too. So yeah, those are the oldest books or the longest books in my TBR that I know of that I have on my Goodreads page. And yeah, that is it for this video. Have you guys read these books? Do you guys feel the same way as I do? Please tell me I'm not alone. I'm just intimidated by most of these books. But yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on my next one. Bye.